Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good evening, everyone. We have a couple of matters before we get into our regular business agenda. And the first is a public hearing on the Smart Schools Investment Plan. Periodically, we have a public hearing when we want to expend funds from this money, which was approved by voters in a statewide referendum almost a decade ago. And it requires a public hearing. And I will open the public hearing and turn it over to Dr. Murphy, who will explain what the recommendation is to the Board of Education to spend from the Smart Schools, which would be subject to a board resolution at another meeting. Dr. Murphy?
Thank you so much, Mr. Ciapetta. So what we decided through the help and work of Ms. Fulton, we wanted to look at what we could use this money for to help with the infrastructure of our school. What we decided to do, looking at some of our outdated systems, one of the first things we looked at for safety and security was keyless door entries, meaning we have them in various buildings and various doors throughout the building where you can use a key card, where it has the fob, and it helps us that keys don't get lost, that only people that are authorized to be in the building will be in. So what we decided is a majority of this money, in fact, $408,000 of that money would then go towards putting keyless entry or these keyless door entries into all of our buildings. This will also help with our playgrounds when students or kids go out. Only a staff member can go in and out, and we're able to keep these doors secure. So that was one of the first things that we looked at to try to help with that infrastructure to help solidify our building security. The second thing was a number of our PA systems are getting old and outdated. In fact, Stimson and Whitman are two of the oldest. What Ms. Fulton had looked at was to look at the PA system at Stimson. It's still using a version of Windows that's 20 years old. It was just parts are becoming more and more harder to find. So looking at that, we wanted to be able to replace the PA system at Stimson at the tune of $192,000, which would total out most of our smart school money.
Okay. What does it leave a balance in the smart? We'll have
it will leave a small balance, I believe about $200,000 or a little less than that, but most of it will be used for the rest of these items.
I know on Smart Schools, it generally requires a match for private schools. Is that required in this situation?
No, given the fact when you're buying Chromebooks or other types of electronic items that are for students, yes, we have to match those to some of our private institutions because of the things that we are doing. This money does not, minimal money has to be allocated to our private school system, so we're able to utilize most of this money.
Okay. Board have questions for Dr. Murphy? It is a public hearing, so I will open up to the public. Does the public have any questions on the Smart School Investment Plan? Okay, with that, we will close the public hearing. All right, moving on to our next item of big business is the third or fourth part of the budget work sessions. This one is probably our most significant one as it contains our programs and academics and staffing. And so there's quite a bit of presentation, but very important material. I'll turn it over to Dr. D'Elia briefly.
Yeah, as we continue, Dr. Centimore leading charge in the business office, working on making sure we can put out an effective and efficient budget to our community, as Mr. Ciapetta just mentioned. A lot of good stuff in there tonight, and we're proud of what we're developing right now. So I'm just going to turn this right over to Dr. Centimore, and let's get right into it.
Thank you, Dr. D'Elia. Good evening, everyone. How are we doing this evening? Can you tell it's a budget presentation? I won't take it personal. So, hello again, and thank you for joining us over these several weeks as we go through our budget development process. Okay. We have a lot to cover, and we're very excited to do it. You'll be hearing from myself as well as several of my colleagues from the cabinet this evening. So our themes remain the same as we look at the budget development for the 2022-23 school year. We want to review what we've done, assess what we need, and make sure we can sustain the decisions that we make. Sustainability is always a core theme. So the first component tonight, we'll look at our schools, K through 12, and our class sizes, and I'm going to pass the baton over to my esteemed colleague, our Executive Director for Human Resources, Mr. Edwin Smith.
Thank you very much, everybody. Good evening. Before we get started tonight, I definitely want to thank all of our principals. Over the last couple of weeks, I spent a lot of time sitting down with them, looking at our projections for next school year. I know it's a busy time of year, so I certainly thank them for their time and efforts, making sure that we have accurate information to take a look at for our planning for next year. Over the next 6 slides, I will provide an overview over our class size projections on all 7 of our schools, starting off with the 4 elementary buildings that you can see in front of you. Let's start off with Oakwood. Our elementary schools, specifically our primary centers, when they look at our kindergarten numbers for the following school year, they always start off with 200 as their number, looking at those projections. But if you're looking at Oakwood specifically in their kindergarten this year, they had a little bit of a bump. So they have about 232 students in their kindergarten, and that will carry over into first grade. So we're looking to pull 1 staff member from kindergarten moving forward to that first grade, looping up to keep those class sizes right where they pretty much are in the first grade in this current school year. And the second grade remains stable at 206 to 188, kind of a balance there.
And if we get a bump, let's say that kindergarten number is closer to 220, we have extra staffing positions in the budget that we can utilize
We
for
do.
that?
We have contingent staffing in the budget that would be able to utilize for that, yes. Moving forward into Countrywood, you can see the numbers there, very similar, once again, using 200 as that number to start off the school year, having 9 sections there. Moving forward, you will notice a little bit of a difference, so if you're looking at a glimpse from this school year to next, in first grade in Countrywood, you're seeing they're going from 8 sections to 9, but if you look ahead also to second grade, you're seeing they're going to 9 sections to 8. Therefore, kind of creating that yin and yang balance between the 2 grade levels, making sure we're remaining staffing neutral in that building. So now moving over into Birchwood and Maplewood. First taking a look at 3rd and 4th grade, which really in Birchwood is remaining staffing neutral. If you take a look at our class sizes, remaining relatively the same from this year to next. But looking at 5th grade, you do see a small bump as far as the students in that grade. We're adding about 10 more students. That's something that could be absorbed. My experience in the secondary would tell me that that could be absorbed amongst the sections there. But when you're looking at elementary class sizes, an increase like that would jump up the numbers in our 5th grade. So we're going to be looking to add another teacher to our 5th grade classes for 5th grade at Birchwood. Moving forward to Maplewood and sitting down with Mr. Hender, this was kind of an easy building to take a look at, and you can see why, so I appreciate that, Mr. Hender, and sitting with you. For the most part, his numbers are remaining the same throughout all grade levels and create a balance, keeping those sections the same. Now we move over into secondary. One of the things I do want to mention when you're looking at the secondary buildings, that projections for secondary schools are a bit different than the elementary level, where they are subject to change throughout the scheduling process. This is especially true at the high school, where you're going to have students that can select, obviously, from various courses to choose from. First, starting off with Silas, and you're going to see this kind of as a progression as I talk about the secondary buildings. You're going to see that his class sizes, Mr. Toto's class sizes at Silas Wood 6th grade center remain in the mid-20s throughout all content areas, which I think are a nice balance to have there. And as we transition over into Stimson Middle School, you're going to see similar projections, and that's what I want to mention, this idea of hovering around the mid-20s for our class sizes, ranging from English, social studies, math, science, and our specials. Particularly maybe focusing in, maybe your eye gets caught by the 28 for our math honors courses at the 7th grade level. It's not rare for our 7th grade honors courses to run a little bit higher based upon the need of our students. Moving forward to 8th grade, similar trends, as I'm saying before. Our class sizes, once again, in English, social studies, math, and science, ranging in that mid-20 range. Maybe your eye is caught a little bit by the LOT, or languages other than English, and the singleton, doubleton. That's kind of language that we might use for scheduling, where you might have a unique situation where you have one section of a particular course, like maybe French, for example. where you have 27 students or 28 students that are taking that course is one class, so you might have a high range in that class. Or maybe in one year you have 22 students taking that one class, that it could vary, so you will find that range. Transitioning last but not least to Walt Whitman High School. And once again, and following that theme, as you're focusing in on class averages, once again, that theme of mid-20s. And I think that's what we want to see for our classes. So looking at English, social studies, science, once again, in our first slide here regarding Walt Whitman High School, you're seeing those class ranges somewhere within the mid-20s. And finally, transitioning over to our last slide regarding staffing at Walt Whitman High School, our math classes, Spanish classes, physical education, health, business, and art, once again echoing that theme of class sizes that are ranging within the mid-20s. You might be drawn in a little bit to world languages and looking at Spanish. Dr. Murphy is going to talk a little bit more about that when he presents his slides as well, to talk about some staffing there.
All right, thank you. You're welcome. Just as a lot of material, break it up there. Any board have any questions on the staffing? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Okay, so now we'll start diving into the various budget codes. The first three are kind of self-explanatory, although we will go into detail. That last code, the 9,000 undistributed. Undistributed is a state term, and that covers things such as benefits, which would incorporate pensions, Social Security. That makes up, the staffing component makes up about 80% in terms of that percentage. And then you have things such as capital and debt service, just so you have an understanding what undistributed means. So in terms of the 1,000 code, this is going to cover our district-wide leadership, the oversight of the district, the various services that get administered. And you can see the various offices that are listed. As we dive into some of the detail, I'll highlight certain things. So in that first topic, where you see that 7.4% increase, about a quarter of that is directly related to enhanced budget communication as we're putting together a pretty robust budget brochure once everything is finalized to go out to the community. In terms of that second, where you see close to a 10.6% increase, this is due to restructuring of our personnel office to meet the ever-evolving needs of the district, as well as some transitioning of some copy machines to BOCES services. That third item of the 5.6, greatly due to what we have to try to anticipate, try to guesstimate in terms of fuel and utility expenses in this ever-changing world that we are living in. The 2000 codes. We are a school district, and this is our bread and butter as we look at instruction. So you would expect a pretty robust percentage of the budget to be covered here. Okay.
Does this include, this is salaries, this doesn't include health care, that's in a different code?
Right.
Okay.
That would be in the 9,000, right. So I'm now going to ask my other esteemed colleagues, Dr. Murphy and Dr. Steele, to cover the next slide.
Thank you, Dr. Centimore. We are looking forward to the implementation of the new HMH Science Dimensions program in grades 6 through 8. That program is being piloted this year. We're also in need of the world language Spanish teacher, which Mr. Smith had referred to previously, in addition to an ENL teacher at Stimson. And we are also looking for a .6 librarian at the Silas Wood Makerspace. And this person will assist with the research portion of the STREAM activities in the makerspace. And Dr. Murphy, continue.
Yes, so at the high school, we've done a lot of work. Mr. Costa, the department chair people and supervisors through Curriculum Council have looked to implement a lot of new courses at the high school. These do not make an impact in staffing, but it's something that we're looking at as a highlight because it's giving a little more instructional diversity in terms of allowing students to know or have differences in coursework. So in health, we're offering global health and mental health. In English, we're doing a class on mythology, Finding Answers, which is a senior seminar kind of research class, as well as Bob Dylan, the American poet. It's a good course. In math, we're revamping our college business statistics and college algebra and trigonometry, being able to give college credit for those two courses. In phys ed, we've looked at the pandemic and thought, and we've seen it as very successful in addition to the mental health, but also yoga and mindfulness is something that students can take in phys ed rather than your traditional physical education courses, as well as Alto, which is a combination with life skills and regular education students working together within a physical education setting. We are, as Dr. D'Elia has mentioned numerous times, the subs that we've been utilizing with our academic recovery plan has been phenomenal. It's allowed us to address the learning loss, and this is going to be continued for next year, and it will become a highlight for our 22-23 school year. And in addition to that, our expansion of the science curriculum. Currently, we have units within what's in the program called Amplified grades, grades K through 5. What we're looking is to continue to build upon those units of study, bringing the last unit in between grades 3 through 5, focusing on the next-gen science standards.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy and Dr. Steele. We'll now pass that cabinet baton to our other esteemed colleague, Ms. Paprillo, as we talk about student services.
Thank you, Dr. Sinamore. So this slide typically just outlines some of the expenditures that are associated under the Student Services Code, which really involves our direct service staff. Starting with our special education teachers, they are assigned to provide explicit and direct instruction to our students with IEPs along the continuum of special education programs, starting from our least restrictive environment, resource room, K-12 integrated co-teaching, and self-contained classes. We also have our pre-K to 12 pupil personnel and related service staff members, our school psychologists, our social workers, our behavior specialists, our speech teachers. These are all key personnel that provide consultation and direct supports within our general and special education classes. These direct service staff members are essential personnel to maintaining our special education continuum within our district. The last bullet refers to our contracted services. This is wherein we have service providers, whether they're related services, speech, PT, OT, or schools or BOCES programs where we have an agreement to provide IEP-driven support services or out-of-district placement. Typically, related service contracts are established for parentally placed private school students, so thinking about St. Anthony's or Long Island School for the Gifted, we're obligated to provide those services for students that may be attending those schools. And also tuition-based programs that are state education-approved schools as well. That includes Middle Neck Manor for the Deaf or Developmental Disabilities Institute, to name a few, and also offering specialized placements for students with developmental disabilities, and that's typically our BOCES Shared Services Program. And these are students that we have attempted to provide in the least restricted environment within our school district, but oftentimes have to make it an alternative placement for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paprillo. So now we'll dive next couple of slides into the 2000 codes. Those first couple of codes have fairly normal range increases, and Ms. Paprillo just spoke eloquently to the 2250 code with special education, which basically is due to the ebb and flow of the needs of our students. And we always will be there to meet the needs of our students through the various services we either can provide in district or in other cases out of district. The next slide, have to look at that first one where we've actually had a reduction. We're actually adding innovation while costs are going down. This is a credit to Ms. Fulton and her leadership in the technology department, as well as the outstanding oversight and leadership from our curriculum office. In terms of that next code, you're seeing that increase of just under 8% due to a shifting of funds. Sometimes what happens is we have to either adjust codes from one code to another, or sometimes funding sources change. In this case, we have some mental health personnel who are now going to be funded through the general fund, where they were prior funded through federal funding. And just below that, close to a 10% increase in co-curricula. That's because we're trying to engage our students. We're trying to address the fact that it's been a tough 2 years, and we want to get our kids more involved, more engaged in school as we address social emotional needs.
So are those additional programs, or?
Yeah, we have been adding intramural opportunities,
Okay.
club opportunities. You know, we're trying to reach out to students with all various interests. You know, just the other day, I'm walking down the hall in the high school, and they were having a debate about Star Wars and the Star Wars Club, and of course, I had to pop in. I had to, you know, I think some of the students might have got a little mad. I started to dominate the conversation, but I couldn't resist. But we want to engage everybody as much as we can and look to meet all interest areas. Transportation, the 5,000 code. So in previous presentations, we've talked about, you know, trying to take a chunk of that state aid package that we're going to get and look to invest that into our fleet. You know, as buses age out, we want to be able to turn them over. And also in this case, we also want to be able to take control of our athletic needs, our field trip needs. You know, it's been a big challenge around Long Island, perhaps the rest of the state, in terms of districts facing issues where contract services have not been able to provide, you know, the transportation. Events have to be rescheduled. The times are not conducive. You have big gaps in time between when the school day ends and the athletic contest begins. So we're looking to address that, take it in-house through this purchase of an investment of $1 million. Other functions within transportation, we obviously have our transportation center. We have the staff that has to operate, both the office staff, the administration. We have a robust garage that not only services our buses, but also services all of our district vehicles, maintenance vehicles, grounds vehicles, security vehicles. And when Dr. D'Elia was in the business office, he also started a contract service where we even service some of Northport's buses, and we charge them a good mint for it, too.
Mm-hmm. Is there a staffing increase associated with the handling the athletic needs?
Yes, so we are going to be hiring some additional drivers, a mechanic for the garage as well, and those additional staff will be offset, that cost will be offset through the fact that we're not going to be paying the contracted service. We also have some breakage in terms of some staff retirements, and again, there's some of the proceeds that we get from the out-of-district service through Northport, for example. Okay. Continuing with the 5,000 codes, all right, so you'll see a big percent increase in that first line. That's because we're investing $1 million into buses. And also, we're trying to guesstimate what the fuel is going to be like as we go into the next, you know, the next 12 months of the school year. You have your normal time increases when we started the budget development process, and then as the world has gotten a little silly, hopefully it'll calm down, and for everyone's sake, you know, certainly from a humanitarian standpoint, but we just want to make sure we have a good cushion in there in case costs can get, you know, start to get a bit egregious with fuel and utilities. In terms of the garage, that percent increase is we're looking to add, as I spoke earlier, to the mechanical support. We want to make sure we're staying on top of our vehicles and their upkeep. That investment in staff will realize savings in maintenance. In terms of benefits, you know, you see a lot of the traditional items that you would expect on the benefits from the various insurances, Social Security, pensions. We'll take a dive into the codes. These are the 9,000 codes. Okay. So our school district, like all school districts in New York State, we caught a big break in that while the teacher retirement system had an increase, the employee retirement system for all the other non-certificated employees had a very significant decrease. And so we were able to realize significant savings in combination when looking at the two pensions. The TRS ebb and flow from year to year tends to be a little bit more stable in its fluctuation, where the ERS can take big jumps. So it's something that we got to keep an eye on, keep our fingers crossed in next year's budget development, that all of a sudden we don't see a spike in that ERS.
How is this calculated, as a percentage of payroll, or?
Yes.
Okay. So it's a fixed it's a fixed certain number?
based on the pension rate.
Okay.
Social Security, this code was a code that was underfunded. So sometimes as we review our budget, if we see certain codes are overfunded, we'll adjust it down. If we see certain codes are underfunded, we need to address that underfunding. And then obviously this too is tied with salaries.
That's also a percent of the payroll?
Right. In terms of Medicare reimbursements, what happens is with our retirees, once they hit 65, they pay the monthly fee out of Social Security, but then the state mandate requires that the district reimburses them. So that's, in case you were curious what that meant. And some of the other functions I had referenced earlier within the debt service, you do have capital projects. One of the things that we're waiting on with state approval, I had mentioned in a previous presentation, is an energy performance contract that should realize some maintenance and utility savings. TANs are, this is something that's important in Suffolk County. In Suffolk County, school districts do not receive their tax revenue right away. In fact, we start to get it in late December. So what happens is districts will take out what's called a TAN, a tax anticipation note, to bridge that gap before the tax revenue comes in, and obviously there's interest tied to that. You have lease purchase agreements. Like I said earlier, we are in the process of transitioning to BOCES services with that.
When does state aid come in?
The state aid comes in, when does it start to come in, the state aid? Yeah, around end of September, October. Yeah.
I mean, this is a very simple fix. I don't know why the state just can't give the state aid earlier. Then we wouldn't need to spend the money on borrowing the TANs. I mean,
Nassau County doesn't have that issue. Yeah. Okay. Continuing with the 9,000 code, there was a bond back in 2003, and that debt service is being paid down. The transfer to capital will be covered on the next slide. We've also highlighted some of those projects in previous presentations. So in terms of regular maintenance budgeting, we've addressed the needs in those areas, but in terms of transfer to capital, there'll be $4 million in that code, a slight increase from this current year's budget. And those are the various projects earmarked for next year. You'll notice with the first one, the district-wide vestibules, these are the security-focused entranceways to the school. Some of those costs are going to be offset because in the previous budget process, there was a proposition to sell the building across the street from the high school known as the Teen Center, and those proceeds will offset some of the vestibule cost. There are some funding, as Dr. Murphy discussed earlier with the public hearing, in terms of the Stimson PA system that'll be covered through Smart Schools. And you have a lot of great projects meeting a lot of needs, certainly a lot of instructional components being addressed there as well. So this has been a good year so far in terms of what we're expecting with state aid. What we're hoping that our legislature will do even a little bit better than what the governor has proposed. Because of that robust aid package that the district is going to be receiving, it puts our district in a unique position compared to many of our neighboring districts in terms of a very moderate consideration for what the tax levy increase would be. And so what I've prepared for the board's consideration is from a zero tax levy increase to a 1% tax levy increase, and what that would mean in terms of the backfill with the budget in terms of the use of reserves. So we are certainly in a position for one more year, meaning the 22-23 school year, to utilize reserves. I did talk about the sustainability in a previous presentation. And so when you consider, you know, hopefully coming out of the pandemic, inflation, the situation around the world, you know, the state aid increase this year comes at a great time, and it allows the Board of Education to consider a 0 to a moderate increase in terms of the tax levy, and then, you know, a transparent review of what that would mean in terms of the impact of use of reserves. In terms of budget to budget, the budget is growing. Okay, the budget is growing by over 10 million at a 5.8%. But once again, that 5.8% of budget growth is not the tax increase. I'm going to go backwards one more. The consideration of the district right now for the Board of Education is a 0 to a 1.0 tax levy increase. This is simply the budget-to-budget total dollar change. I just want to make sure there's clarity with that and there's not confusion. Okay. In addition to the budget, there will also be 2 property propositions for the community's consideration. 2 Melville Road, the old library, as a place that we currently rent. And West 23rd Street, we have a softball field, but the team has since been moved to a beautiful, newly constructed field at Memorial. These will be separate propositions, one for each property, and the proceeds will go to offset the cost as we look at our 4 elementary schools. They have their outdated portable classrooms. Credit to our maintenance department, facilities department, that they've lasted beyond their lifespan. It's time to take them down, and in its place, construct new library media stream centers. And again, the proceeds from the 2 property sales will offset those costs, and additional costs would come through the next transfer to the capital cycle. And both would require voter authorization. I apologize. As I've been stating, the goals of the district remain the same. We're aggressively seeking to strive for excellence, to address all learning gaps. We're a reflective school district, and you know, our focus is always on raising the bar, and of course, maintaining health and safety. The next meeting will be the budget adoption on April 12th, as we head towards the May 17th budget vote, proposition vote, and board candidate vote.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Centimore. Open up to board comments or questions on the budget, thoughts? We'll turn it over to anyone in the public have any questions on what's been presented so far? Okay. So as Dr. Centimore said, April 12th would be the budget adoption. At that point, we would adopt the budget number as well as the 2 propositions. The administration spent a lot of time working on this budget. I mean, I think it's got you know, we have a lot of increases that are outside of our control, and I think they've done a good job balancing that. It is fortunate this year that we were able to get a significant amount of new state aid, which is helping us and puts us in a good position vis-a-vis the tax rate. So thoughts on the need to give some directions to the administration, if everyone's comfortable with what's been presented and moving forward and voting on that for the next meeting. Any thoughts?
For the tax increase?
Oh, tax increase and as well as the overall components of the budget.
I'm in favor because of all the skyrocketing costs that consumers are facing with gas and food and everything else. We've got 12 million in state aid additional. I would favor the 0% tax increase.
Okay. Other thoughts?
Does the state look at, if we make it a 0, will the state say, well, you were able to do 0, so next year we're going to give you less, or they don't, that's not a factor?
That would be 0 impact.
That has 0, okay,
Yep,
thank you.
absolutely.
That's a good question. So now, in terms of next year also, we've seen a commitment to fully fund foundation aid now, correct?
Yeah, we have one more year of it to be fully funded, so the expectation is that there could be an increase of $10 to $12 million next year as well.
And that would be by law, right? I mean, they can always do whatever they want, but.
Yeah, by the way, it's been signed into law by Governor Hochul.
Ms. Meyer, any thoughts on the budget so far?
I think, the team has done an excellent job preparing the budget and, especially meeting the needs of continued learning with the achievement gap that we've seen during the pandemic, as well as all the necessary items. So great work, and I agree with Linda, if possible. I think we should keep it at a 0% tax levy increase.
Ms. Bronson, any other thoughts on the budget?
No, I agree. I think it's very well prepared. Appreciate everybody's input on it. And again, if we can do the zero, help everybody, and there's no impact to us, then I think that's the right thing to do.
Great, thank you. And I concur. I think we're in a very unique position. Been on the board a while, and we really haven't, we've been telling people in Albany, give us more state aid so we can help with tax relief. So, this year they answered our call, and, and we're doing our best to try to do right by the taxpayers. Of course, everything's subject to what is ultimately adopted. We do not think that we'll go down in our from the executive budget proposal. Hopefully, the trend is traditionally we get a little bit more. I'm not sure if we will or not. Assuming we get more, is there a recommendation by administration as to what we would do with that additional money?
Yeah, if we do receive any more additional funding from the state in the legislative budget, I would recommend lowering the usage of reserves to go to a zero, because right now we're going to be using about $2.44 million. If, for instance, we get $300,000, I'd recommend that $300,000. I'm just putting that number out there. I'm not sure. If it's $100, I would recommend putting that towards back in the bank and lowering the reserve usage.
What does everybody think about that?
I agree.
Okay. All right, so that'll give you some direction to administration, at least to prepare the propositions for the next meeting, subject to any changes that come out of Albany and further discussion.
Will do.
Okay?
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe.
I would note, we do receive throughout the year different requests from parents and whatnot, as well as staff, for different expenditures. The board has considered those. There's certain things that were added to the budget and certain things that, may have not ended up in there. It didn't mean they weren't considered. Everything has been considered. It's just that, we're dealing with when you have non-discretionary costs that go up, where you have no control over it, it doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room. So, to those that made suggestions during the course of the year as to things that they want to see or wish lists, doesn't mean that they wouldn't be included in the future, and doesn't mean that they weren't necessarily bad ideas. This is just, as much as we can do at this point, and it's a good place to be. From a decade ago when we were taking things out of the budget. And laying people off and eliminating things, this is really it's almost a dream to be able to maintain a program, add things, and to present the best possible option to the taxpayers. So I thank Dr. D'Elia for delivering such an excellent budget in his first year, as well as to his excellent cabinet. So thank you all.
That's hard to do. That's my first year. I don't know how I can keep doing it every year, though.
It's a lot of pressure.
Nowhere else to go.
Okay, that concludes our budget work session. We are down to 4 board members today, so we will need unanimous votes on everything. Ms. Carey, Mr. Joyner are traveling or unavailable, and we'll move into our agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Ms. LaCara, seconded by Mr. Bronson. All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Items C through F require one resolution for adoption. That includes the minutes, bills, and that's it, minutes and bills. Is there a motion? Mr. Bronson, seconded by Ms. Meyer. Any questions on items C through F? All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Moving on to communications, we have a note of thanks written to the Board of Education, from the South Huntington Paraprofessional Association, and they're thanking the Board of Education for the completion of their new contract. So, thank you. And we have an invitation, actually passed, to the first annual, hopefully, Rho Kappa Social Studies Honor Society induction. It was held earlier this week in the PAC, and thanks to the teachers, Mr. Milazzo and Ms. Casey, who were involved with putting that together. So we now have a Rho Kappa Social Studies Honor Society chapter, and we inducted quite a number of members in, and they were very impressive young men and women. All right, moving on to new business. New business item number 1 is the approval of Eastern Suffolk BOCES Cooperative Bidding Program. Is there a motion? Ms. LaCara, seconded by Ms. Meyer. Dr. Centimore.
Thank you. This is an annual process that we look to be a part of this. It provides the district with an opportunity to piggyback off any bids that we wish to use. And by allowing our staff members to use these bids, we do realize significant time and cost savings within the purchasing as well as district departments based on need. The program is used by a majority of school districts on Long Island.
Questions? All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Moving on to new business, item number 2 is the adoption of proposed Board of Education meeting dates for 2022-2023 school year. Is there a motion? Ms. LaCara, second. Ms. Meyer. This goes through the meetings for next year. It closely tracks this year's schedule. Of note, July 7th will be the organization meeting and our first meeting of the year. Meetings then follow in September, October, November. Teacher of the Year presentation on January 25th, and we begin the budget on February 15th with the budget vote on May 16th. Any questions? Yes?
Are we,
Mr. Bronson.
I know obviously during COVID, we moved the meetings primarily to this facility. I noticed next year, we're still primarily in this, is the new model because of this, we have this nice facility to hold the meetings here as opposed to the, I think in my first, earlier on when I was on the board, we tended to go.
We did go to, yeah. I mean, I think since we remodeled the room, we've been here more. You know, if the board chooses, you know, we can continue that, or, you know, we could mix in some road trips, you know, along the way. So depends on the pleasure of the board. Do you prefer visiting a couple places, or?
I do.
Okay. So we can always, I think prior to COVID, we tried to work in like 1 or 2 road trips based on, you know, presentations and stuff. So we can add
I
that.
don't know how it else, that's just my personal.
Any other thoughts?
Originally, I think way back when, we went to one every year. Remember we were
Yeah,
there?
we did go to one, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think once we cut them down after we remodeled here because we
yeah.
made it nice
I
and,
say
you know.
1 or 2 maybe a year, and you could rotate those.
1 or 2 rotating? Okay. Ms. Meyer, what do you think?
I agree.
Okay. All right, so we can, we'll try to do that. We'll add 1 or 2. We can adopt this now, and then, do we need to amend that, Ms. McLean, or not required? Okay. Make sense? Good. I assume Whitman would not be one of the ones because we visit them normally. We can,
We go there for
we already go there, yeah, in here, so.
other than that.
Okay. Good. All in favor with that suggestion? Any opposed? Thank you. Approval, item number 3 is approval of wage and benefit agreement. Is there a motion? Ms. LaCara, second. Mr. Bronson. This is an approval of a wage and benefit agreement for Mr. Edwin Smith, who is the Executive Director for Personnel. Contract tracks the other contracts that have been approved for the cabinet level positions, and it becomes a 4-year probationary period. Any questions on the contract? All in favor? Any opposed? Congratulations.
You're official.
We're all counting on you.
Get to stay. If they didn't approve it, I don't know what would have happened to you. All right, moving on to item number 4 is approval of data security and privacy agreements. Motion. Mr. Bronson, seconded by Ms. Meyer. Dr. Steele?
Yes, we have two agreements tonight, one from the Benchmark Education Company, which is a program used in our after-school ENL program, where our ELL learners have access, in kindergarten through 6th grade, have access to books online in English and in Spanish. And we also have Spotify Soundtrap for Education, which is a music app used in the middle school by the general music teacher, where students get to explore creative sound recordings. And both of these organizations are agreeing to secure our students' data.
Okay. Board have any questions for Dr. Steele?
I'm happy to share my Spotify playlist. That'd be helpful.
That'd be a good idea. We should do that. Any questions? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, moving on to new item number 5 is the approval of attendance at the National School Nutrition Conference. Is there a motion? Ms. LaCara, seconded by Ms. Meyer. Dr. Centimore? Oh, I'm sorry. Vito. Dr. Vito. Dr. Villia. That's yours.
Is Sheila Busey, our school lunch coordinator, is interested in attending this national annual conference in Orlando, Florida. The last 2 years have been virtual, but this year they're offering it as an in-person conference. And the funding for the trip would not be coming from the general fund, it would be coming from the school lunch fund, which is separate from our general fund.
Okay. Sounds interesting and tasty. Any questions from the board? All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Moving on to item number 6 is the approval of attendance for board member at the Tri-Cya Annual Dinner Hall of Honor for 2022. Is there a motion? Ms. LaCara, second. Mr. Bronson and Ms. Meyer. Any questions? There are 4 honorees this year. Mention them here. Oh, no, sorry. Stephanie Guittard, Corinna Mendez, Andre Sorrentino, and Martine McDonald, who's also a South Huntington employee. So, very good honorees, and people have given a lot to our community. It's a great organization, the Tri-Cya. They're housed in Walt High School, and we've always had a good relationship with them. Any questions? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, moving on to item 7, settlement agreement for litigation. Motion? Ms. LaCara, seconded by Mr. Bronson and Ms. Meyer. This is the conclusion of a litigation that was brought against the district for personal injury. Specifically, it was asbestos-related litigation, settlement in the amount of $25,000, previously discussed in the executive session. It has a full release against the school district so that no other claims can be brought against the district. Also indemnified in case any other defendants wanted to cross-claim against us. Any questions on this? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, item 8, recommendation for the placements by the Committee on Special Education, dates listed January, February, March, and Preschool Special Education Committee, dates listed in January, February, and March. Motion. Mr. Bronson, seconded by Ms. Meyer. Any questions on the placements? All in favor? Any opposed? Personnel schedules 5, 7, 9, 11, 15, 17, 19, 20, and 22. Motion to discuss. Ms. Meyer, seconded by Mr. Bronson. Questions on personnel? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, information and reports are listed. Administrative reports, Curriculum Council. We will defer that to next meeting. Wait for Ms. Carey. And future meetings, our next meeting will be on April 12th, back here at the Caden Building, where we will adopt the budget. Then April 26th, a special meeting for the purpose of the BOCES budget vote and elections. May 10th, regular board meeting, and then May 17th, budget meeting, recognition of students, and board elections. And then June 15th concludes the last meeting of the fiscal year. Comments by board members? Yes, Ms. Meyer.
I just wanted to congratulate the middle school theater program on an extremely successful run of show this past weekend. I believe they did 4 performances with 2 separate casts of Frozen Junior, and I had the opportunity to attend Friday evening with my daughter, and To say we were blown away is a major understatement, and just to see the amazing things that our middle schoolers are doing, not just on the stage, but behind the stage. The production quality was incredible. So kudos to Mr. Duggan, to Mr. Slowitzky, and to the entire cast and crew and all the participants and all the parents that were there to encourage them and drive them home from all those theater practices. So well done, and it's just so amazing to see how incredible our district is doing, both in athletics, in theater, in art. Truly amazing.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer. Other comments by board members? All right. Comments by the superintendent, Dr. D'Elia.
Yes, I must echo what Ms. Myers said. This past Friday night, I really felt like we are back. Friday night, I visited Huntington Student Art Council, and we got to see some amazing student artwork. From there, Countrywood, we had some Boy Scouts and bridging sessions going on, and then we went over to Oakwood for Family Fun Day, and then I ended up at Silas with Ms. Meyer watching Rosen Jr. It was unbelievable what they put together, and really gave me, after Friday night, such a sense of, we're back. We really are. So it was a great feeling, and and all the things I mentioned were student-based, and that's what makes us so special, and what we have here in South Huntington so special. I definitely feel we're in an excellent flow. Our academic recovery plan is in full motion. I really strongly believe we're absolutely moving the dial with our instructional staff, our administration, and everybody associated with this district. We're doing what we're here to do. Our bread and butter is to educate, and we are moving in a great place, and I thank everybody for that. And another piece of something that's happening that's really good, on April 9th, we're having a stream Saturday over at Maplewood for our K-5 students. Over 100 students registered for this, and it's with families, so we're really excited about it, and another way to show you we're back. Right. And on the heels of that, May 27th, and I must put this out there, I'm sorry, I'm going to put it out there right now. It is my birthday, but it has nothing to do with what I'm about to say. I'm going to be very clear with that. Just, my birthday always falls around Memorial Day. Right now in the calendar, it is a off day for students because we've only used one snow day, and looking at the weather, it looks pretty good moving into April. If we don't use another day, it would remain a off day for students and a conference day for teachers and our instructional staff. I'm putting it out to the board for their consideration. The amount of work that's been done this year, which hasn't been a normal year. We're getting there. We're there, I believe, almost there at full force. But what we've done throughout the year to give our students the best experience possible, the board would consider making this May 27th a closing the school district for that day. Something that I'm recommending, I think they've done an outstanding job, everybody. I'm going from custodians, clerical, staff, transportation, bus drivers, everyone making this district flow the way it has, permanent substitute teachers that have helped us. It's been really amazing to watch and be part of, and I'll leave it at that.
So all staff would have the day off?
Yes.
Okay. What does the board think?
I think it's a good idea, and I think it's good timing, because I know, myself and many folks felt kind of really restricted, and like Vita said, sort of we're back, and so in their personal lives, hopefully, knock on wood, we're continuing the upswing with health and the virus and everything, that people can really enjoy the day off that perhaps they had days off before that they felt they couldn't use. So I think it's a great idea and great timing. So,
Ms. Meyer?
I 100% agree. I wish we could throw in a massage for everybody too, but day off certainly.
Yes,
Ms. LaCarra?
definitely.
I concur as well. Enjoy the day off.
The only contingency is if we have to use it. I have to put that out there. 'Cause I know I'll get beat up on Facebook.
You just jinxed it. Thanks a lot, Doc.
I've been knocking on the table.
Tomorrow's going to turn into snow, right? It's not going to be rain.
We have hail and frogs.
It is going to be cold on Monday, I saw that.
As long as the sun is out.
Be optimistic. All right. Comments by ex officio student member of the Board of Education, Mr. Connolly. Could not make our meeting today. It is his first lacrosse match, so hopefully it ended well. Good luck to Owen on today's match as well as the rest of the year. Voice of the resident. Any comments from the residents? Yes, Ms. Holzweiss, would you like to address the board?
Good evening, Dr. D'Elia, administration, and members of the Board of Education and residents of South Huntington School District. I'm Christina Holzweiss, a wife and a mother of 3 children who attend Stimson, Silaswood, and Birchwood. Before I read this, I'd like to thank you for listening to the voice of the community and adding a .6 librarian. And now I'd like to read what I wrote.
Sure.
I stand here before you because I believe that together we can do better. 2 weeks ago, I explained how a full-time certified school librarian at the Silaswood Great Center would have a positive impact on our students' academic and social-emotional needs. I explained that for more than 9 years, each child who entered the doors of Silaswood suffered inequity, while their siblings, family members, and neighbors in all of the other South Huntington schools had access to full-time certified librarians or teachers on special assignment. Each year, almost 500 sixth graders and their teachers have not. For the past 9 years, almost 4,500 students did not have access to a full-time, trained, experienced teacher librarian to help them navigate and use print and digital resources to curate, think critically, create, collaborate, communicate, and participate as active digital citizens in our global community. 9 years ago, the Silaswood librarian was transferred to an elementary school position. The elementary school librarian, in turn, was accessed. This left Silaswood without a librarian. Although there have been ample opportunities to rectify this over the years, and especially now, a full-time certified librarian position for Silaswood has remained open. This former school librarian empowered our students to develop inquiry and media literacy skills. She scheduled classes with teachers in the library, in their classrooms, and in the former computer lab. Any teacher could request a collaboration. Teachers also scheduled time to work on the curriculum fair reports and projects with their students. Now, without the librarian and the decreased size of the library, the students have lost access to valuable resources both in terms of books and staff. Our sixth graders don't understand how to properly write a research paper, a skill necessary for success in high school and college. In addition to the absence of a full-time certified librarian, I would like to pose a few questions to the South Huntington School Board and Administration on behalf of my fellow residents and taxpayers. Number one, according to Section 21.4 of New York State Education Law, lending of library materials should be equitable to all public and non-public schools in the district. How long has it been since students were able to borrow materials from the Silaswood Library? 2, according to Section 712 of New York State Education Law, a district has the duty to make library materials acquired with LMA available for loan upon request by the pupils in the district, including non-public school students. LMA, or Library Materials Aid, is intended to supplement local funds budgeted for school library programs to purchase materials which are cataloged and processed as part of the school library. Currently, up to $6.25 per student attending public or non-public schools within a school district's boundaries can be reimbursed by the state. Each public school district is required to use these funds to purchase and loan library materials on an equitable basis. With almost 500 students at Silaswood, this would mean that each year about $3,000 worth of books could be purchased for the library without a burden to the taxpayers. Were these funds used for other purposes during these 9 years? 3, when I visited the Silaswood School Library, approximately 1,200 books were housed on the bookshelves, fewer than 3 books per student. The American Library Association recommends at least 15 to 20 print and digital books per student. By this recommendation, Silaswood should have had approximately 7,200 books, not 1,200. According to the New York State Education Department School Library Media Program Evaluation Rubric, under 5 books per student, or 2,500 for the Silaswood student body, is considered below basic, the lowest score in a 4-point rubric. If an appropriately sized collection has not been maintained over the past 9 years, where has the library materials aid been spent? The 2023 budget includes funds allocated for Silaswood Library Media Makerspace Phase 2. Will these funds be used to purchase more books for the library to compensate for the books that had not been purchased in the past? Last year, the South Huntington School District received an additional $6.9 million legislative aid allocation. The ARP ESSER funds were to be used to address the many impacts of COVID-19 on pre-K through 12 education, including avoiding devastating layoffs and hiring additional educators to address learning loss, and providing support to students and existing staff. Last year, new positions for 3 technology coaches and a makerspace teacher were opened full-time before the 9-year absence of a full-time certified librarian was filled, with a 0.6 today. I know most people do not know what a modern school librarian does, but is more than checking books in and out and doing read-alouds. A full-time certified school librarian position now also encompasses the roles of technology coach and makerspace teacher. According to the last board meeting presentation of the 2022-2023 budget, proceeds of property sales of 2 Melville Road and West 23rd Street will be utilized to offset the cost of constructing new elementary library media stream centers. This is a wonderful opportunity to develop partnerships among the tech coaches, full-time certified school librarians, and teachers on special assignment in all of our schools. I hope the school board recognizes not only the reinstatement of a full-time certified school librarian position at the Silas Wood 6th Grade Center, but also an equitable distribution of funding and resources. I am not asking for more than what our neighboring districts have. I'm only asking that our students have equal access to resources and opportunities when they compete with other Long Island students for college scholarships and jobs. It is becoming more and more difficult to afford to live on Long Island, and my children, all of our children, deserve the right to make South Huntington their home for their future families. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your thoughtful remarks as well. Today, as our last meeting, and, as I said, you know, we always consider those comments and appreciate all the voice of the residents, so thank you. Anyone else like to address the Board of Education? All right. Ms. LaCara.
I wanted to make a motion to go into exec session to discuss a matter of personnel and litigation.
Is there a second? Mr. Bronson and Ms. Meyer. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, we will recess to executive session. Thank you.
Thank you.